to talk a little bit about some of these emerging technologies because you can get a kind of edge on what are some of these technologies that we should be watching out for and thinking about. And this is from Daniel Burns, did a top 20 research of the trends shaping 2017. We took that and kind of crowdsourced it with a whole bunch of finance and accounting professionals. And we said, what are the ones that you think are going to have the biggest impact in the next 3 years? So this is their top 10 from the list of the top 20. And you can see there, big data, adaptive and predictive cyber, artificial intelligence, virtualization, automation of processes, blockchains, mobile apps, augmented and virtual reality apps, Internet of Things, visual communications, and social business applications. So not all of them are new, although if you don't know anything about those, you probably should put those on your radar because I think they're legitimate and they've been validated from plenty of members. So this gets to one of Dan's, I think, most famous quotes, which is, in the next 5 years, we will transform how we market, sell, communicate, collaborate, innovate, and educate. Pretty much everything. And when we talk about that, right, he's talking about transformation, not incremental change. So big leaps in just about everything we do. I think that bears out with our opening quote by Klaus Schwab. And this is because, again, of the exponential curve and the fact that almost every one of these things is exponential technologies. So they're moving forward and they're moving exponentially. So they're not going to go back. They're not going to go back and say we're going to have less storage, less power. They're going to continue, and they're going to continue to double in the power that they bring to market. Now, what else is happening is because of those storage, bandwidth, and processing power, these technologies are kind of connecting and amplifying. So some of them are moving at lightning speeds just because of that phenomena. So I think, what can you imagine that this stuff, as it continues, could do for you and your organization to help automate things and make things better and really improve what you're actually doing? So one more visual. This is all the stuff that's in your smartphone. And I read a study recently that said if you took the cost of that technology at the time it was invented, so the VCR that you've got in there, I don't know about it, I'm old enough that I remember these things that were like movie cameras that you took out to your kids' stuff, and had this big giant 20-pound backpack with batteries, and that cost about $2,000 back in the day. Now that video camera, actually 10 times better, is right here, and you don't have to deal with VHS tapes or anything. And so cameras, GPSs, the GPS I think was like $600,000 when it was first invented for the military. Now we take for granted that's been all miniaturized and stuck into your phone. I think the other stat I see is that smartphones aren't ever even used for talking anymore. They're more like media players for video and music. At best, text and those kinds of things. So the strategic question I want you to be asking is this one. How can we use these exponential technologies to transform every business process that we have? Internal processes and external facing the customer. And obviously everything we can do to mobilize it, because that's the leading trend around all this stuff. So here's an example of this technology being applied to accounting, right? You're going to see effectively Alexa, the Amazon Alexa, voice-activated, guru, if you will, accessing accounting records through a chatbot in Sage Accounting.
Right, here we go. Alexa, open Peg.
Hello, Chrissy.
Peg, who owes me money?
Stephen Kelly owes you $5,000 for making robots.
Uh-oh.
Guys, I gotta tell you, he owes me from last year.
Uh-oh. She's pegged on my case. It's taken me a year, but I better transfer that money. But this is absolutely amazing. This is great. What else can Peg do for customers?
So I'll show you a few more examples. Peg, which of my customers have a filing date this week?
You have 2 clients with key deadlines this week. Visa Sell Deck and Build Your Apps Incorporated.
Great. What tasks do I have to do this week?
You have 3 tasks due for completion this week. These are perform fieldwork, complete checklists, and prepare financial statements.
I think for you, it's just a pretty back.
Yeah, Peg really definitely. That's on my map.
Right. And how about next week?
You have 2 tasks due for completion next week. These are audit and business analysis.
So what you just saw is actually really cool. That is voice connecting me to my accounts through Peg. How's that? Thanks, Peg. Bye for now.
Goodbye. Speak later.
So intelligent e-assistants, this is artificial intelligence. These are all part of those technologies that you saw in the other top technology item. This is IBM Watson helping prepare taxes at H&R Block. That's been a game changer. Big data, that's another key area here. This is, IBM likes to say that it's the 4 V's. I'm gonna add a 5th V. So I think it's like V to the 5th. So one is the volume of data, and they talk about, now we're talking about zettabytes, which are just, quintillions of bytes of data that are produced every day. And it's doubling every year, at least. So the volume of data, the velocity, how much data is produced every day and how fast it's being produced. Everything from streaming data to a magnitude of data coming inside your organization. The variety of data, everything from social, mobile, video, pictures. And what does that mean to an organization? And what does it mean to businesses, right? How is it impacting you? And then last, the veracity of data, which has to do with the uncertainty that you don't always know if it's legitimate or not. You don't always know how it relates to other data, and that's another key point. So big data is the idea that all the data in our world doesn't come through the general ledger, which is what most of us in accounting and finance are used to. And it isn't all controllable or controlled the way we might like it. So I think we have to start opening up our mind, kind of getting out of the box to say, what could we do with other data? What could we do with social data to understand customer sentiment? And what can we do with customer data around CRM and what that might mean? Predicting whether they're going to buy something or not. Those are all things that are now possible under this idea of big data. So from a profession standpoint, we've got to get a lot better at this to get to the 5th V, which is how can you add value with your knowledge of accounting and the language of business to apply this new big data concept to your organization. This is another example. This comes from IBM that also talks about this idea that where does it all come from? So it can come from literally, your toothbrush attached to the internet, sending updates. How many of you use Waze to help guide you? And Waze connected to your calendar that says, hey, Tom, you have to leave for work this morning at 7:30 to get there in time because of traffic. Or the photographs. I don't know if you've noticed, if you ever dipped into your photos and suddenly it says, I can identify all the selfies that you've taken, or I can create moments with other people that I can actually match facial recognition. So the technology is evolving at a really, really rapid pace. And your question is, what can I do with that data and the ability to analyze that data, which we didn't always have before? And then there's blockchain. This one I think has a potential to be pretty disruptive. The key concept here, which is also in artificial intelligence, but the idea that n equals all, that comes from my buddy Ed Kless. But here's what it means. Almost all the time that we work with data, we're using samples, right? We're doing some kind of statistical sampling to try to get, because we can't validate all the data all the time. Well, with artificial intelligence and blockchain and the cloud, you could actually look at all the data and have it validated with the help of machines. And blockchain has that capability. This is a Financial Times article, but it says The greater adoption of blockchain technology combined with big data analysis techniques will mean auditors no longer have to undertake sampling, but can instead focus on identifying trends and exceptions that require further scrutiny. So I think we're getting to this idea that, and I heard IBM use it, is that we're getting to augmented intelligence, not artificial. In other words, you're working side by side with the machine and figuring out how to leverage the power of the machine with the power of your knowledge of your business, your deep domain expertise, and hopefully your strategic thinking skills to be able to pull insights out of all that great analysis. So here's some examples of how blockchain can be used in accounting and audit. You could get the, it's John Barron, Managing Director, Thomson Reuters, but literally anything that's an asset or a value, blockchain could be involved in tracking it. Even supply chain is a huge one that I've seen. So again, this is about really starting to say, what are the trends, what those technologies might be doing, right, predicting, and then what could I do to take those technologies and flip them into opportunities to work differently, to do different things. So when we get to this idea of an anticipatory mindset, really I think the kind of thing you want is, what can I be doing to redefine and reinvent where we might go? Another way of thinking about it is, often we like to protect and defend the status quo, especially when things are changing fast. We kind of want to hold on and say, I know this works, don't change it. I think instead we have to start adopting a mindset that says, what if I embrace and extend the new technology? So it's an and world, right? I'm going to have what I have, but make it better. Apply new things, or maybe even transformational things, and start to move it up that value curve. So let me give you examples of what we're seeing. So here's two, I think, kind of crazy examples, but they're here today. So one is the Amazon Go store. This is Seattle, and they're testing a store where you can walk in, obviously you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, and you can fill your basket up. Everything's got little RFIDs on them. You put it in your basket, walk out the door, and it charges your Amazon account. You don't have to interact with anyone. No standing in lines or anything. So no lines, no checkout. No, seriously, is what they have on that one. And then Uber is testing flying taxis. Now, you might say, well, that's going to be crazy. It's going to be ridiculously expensive. What they're saying is they believe the cost of that in a local market could be just slightly more than the actual Uber taxi itself. And so how do they do that? Well, technology. What they're going to do is they'll pick you up in one location, shuttle you to a common takeoff spot, and there might be 4 or 5 of you, as you can see, that are in that car, and then it just takes off and takes you to where you need to go. The thing is, they're going to start this in Dubai and Dallas by 2020. That's rather crazy. But that's how they're redefining and reinventing. They started thinking about, well, what could I do if I'm sitting in a traffic jam? Well, I could vertically, I think they're called vertical liftoff vehicles. There's an acronym for it. Anyhow, keep your eye on that, because that's going to be another one of those game changers. So now that you've got at least some basics around this, I want you to be thinking, like, what could I give people, my customers or people back in the office, the ability to do what they currently can't do, but would want to if they only knew they could. Now, Henry Ford's famously, his famous quote around this was, if I asked people what they wanted back in the Model T day, they would have asked for faster horses. So asking people what they want isn't really the thing. Anticipation means giving them the ability to do what they can't do and might not even be able to imagine, but they would love it if you could give it to them, right? Think about GPSs. How many of us asked for a GPS? We were happy going into the gas station, getting a map. So I think the idea here would be, what can you think about that's taking this technology to another level and applying it to your accounting role and finance? And I want to close this notion of, we've got to figure out how to direct our future, or someone else will, right? The idea, I heard Mark Randolph, the founder of Netflix, talk, and he said, you need to disrupt yourself before someone else does. And obviously he knows a bit about disruption. So I want to kind of close with some resources that might help you in this journey to be anticipatory and figure out, how do I get ahead of these crazy, fast-changing times? this slide comes from the CPA Horizons 2025 project, where we looked out at our profession into 2025 and said, you know, what's it going to look like and what would we be doing? And there's a vision statement, and if you look at the graph there, that's really the accounting information value chain, right? Accounting is the language of business. And this is how we create value as a profession. It starts with, we actually measure business events, right? We record the language of business, and we take that data and we put it into classifications, general ledger, chart of accounts. And at that point, the data becomes information, right? It's got value, more value than just raw data. Then that information moves up into knowledge, right? We take that data and we start to analyze it and combine it and report on it. And then if we're really good, we take that data and we add insights. Wow, I've seen this in this industry, so what can we do here? And suddenly that knowledge gets converted to decisions. Now, where do you think the highest value point on this graph is? Left or right? I think you know, right? It's far right. And what's happening at the lower end, at the left end, it's like a big Pac-Man is coming up and kind of gobbling up those lower levels, and rather quickly. So what does that mean? It means you have to move your skill set all the way over to the right. And when we did this work, so we came up with this idea that the vision of a finance professional in the future is we're trusted advisors who enable people and organizations to shape their future. Combining insight with integrity, we deliver value by 4 areas, right? We communicate with clarity and objectivity. Well, really, that's kind of the moving the data into information, right, and classifying it. Then we translate that information into knowledge. Again, adding value, right? Now we're reporting on it, we're starting to analyze it. But again, it might be mostly historical. Then we start to anticipate and create opportunities with it. That's when we talk about KPIs and looking forward with our data, the windshield view versus the rear view mirror view. It's what everyone's desperately craving in today's fast-changing environment. And so what can we be doing to kind of help that client, if you're in public accounting, or your company or organization, if you're in business, industry, government, or nonprofit? And so what can we be doing to anticipate and create those opportunities? And if we're really good, we're helping that client, that company, our companies, design pathways that transform their visions into reality by using the language of business. So that's this idea of being future ready, right? Is being able to move up to that area where we can actually be proactive and help our businesses succeed in rapidly changing times. So to do that, what do we need? What kind of skills are we going to have? Again, how do I get this notion of anticipation in a skill set? So we've done some research about this, and over the last few years, over 1,000 responses, we've identified the top 5 skills that everyone says they need. 75% of them are actually in this group of 5, right? There's 10 that are actually on there. So if you look, strategic and critical thinking, communication, there's that anticipation word again, anticipating, serving, evolving needs, inspiring and motivating others, and collaboration and mobilizing consensus. Those 5 cover 75% of what every finance and accounting professional said they need in the future. So we went and searched and said, what can we do to find out where that is? And we found this skill of anticipation. And here's a quick video clip that shows what people said about this notion of anticipation when Dan Burris, who is the creator of the system, came and spoke to our group.
Anticipation is absolutely necessary, and it's a new competency that every individual, not only CPAs, but members in industry, must address.
If you're not anticipating what's going to happen in the future, then you're going to be left behind in the past.
The only thing you can change is your future based on the actions you take today. Our world has gotten so complex and so rapidly changing that the issues get clouded. And being able to use the tools that the anticipatory CPA provides you to kind of glean the certainty out of all that fog is critical.
The big hope here is it will give insight to the business so your businesses can be better able to adapt to today's environment. And we as accountants and finance people, I think, are in a unique position to be able to assist and make that happen.
How you view the future shapes how you act in the present, and by the way, how you act in the present will indeed shape your future. In other words, your future view will determine the future you. And rather than just motivate you with zip, boom, ba, rah, rah, rah stuff and have you be stuck back in the trenches in 2 days, this is about, no, the hard trends that are actually shaping the future so that you can develop a future view that is based on where we know we're going, and in reality, it's elevated over what you think.
He really summarizes it in a really profound way. He brings it down to a level that I think everyone in that room today could understand.
What I heard this morning gave me great hope for this profession. Anticipation is absolutely something you can learn and you can use in your firm.
If you're not anticipating, your competitor is. So if you want to be ahead, if you want to be best in class, anticipation, I think, is a must.
Accountants need to be proactive. There are no tools that specifically make them proactive, and that's what this is for. There are a set of strategies for making your firm work better in the future. No matter what you're doing, this will make you do it better.
So the point about this is, right, this is an exciting time. It's as if I could see a little further than my competition, if I could see these trends and I could figure out which are hard trends that I should really watch and develop opportunities around those, this has never been a better time. I mean, as a CFO, I used to always worry about just getting the numbers right. But with this new technology, I could get the numbers right and actually have tons of resources to help me analyze them and predict and actually be proactive with the business, which is what we all aspire to. It's what we became CPAs and finance and accounting professionals for. So now I'm going to give you some resources that actually can help you from that. This is the anticipatory organization skill set. This is what we researched. If you look, you'll see every one of the skills that were on our top 5 and more. This also correlates to Dan Burris's research around the top Global 100 companies. And I think this is what we're trying to say. This set of skills has been baked into an innovative learning program that will help you build these skills. It's called the anticipatory organization. It's based on the anticipatory organization model. And you'll see 4 modules. So it's 4 modules of very, very short video lessons with rapid application tools. Each module contains 7 lessons. And then the magic happens in those little white arrows that connect the module. So after each module, you do a debrief with your team, if you have a small group or big group, and start to kind of talk about the concepts and then bake them into your culture, right? Create a whole elevated anticipatory culture. But the 4 modules are Know What's Next, which is about transforming planning and how you think, gets into that hard trend methodology. Develop Opportunities begins to say, how can I transform innovation? There's everyday innovation and there's big exponential innovation. This covers both of those and helps you think through those. Shape the Future is, what can I do to transform my culture, to kind of make the culture more likely to accept change, to have a positive future view, and be more innovative. And then the last module gets to accelerating the results. What can I do to transform results and give people tools so that they can move projects faster through our pipeline? Faster because everyone has a common language to share about this notion of anticipation. So that's the thing. It takes ideally about an hour a week, and you would do it over probably 4 months. Almost 1 month per module is a nice, easy pace. You can accelerate a lot faster than that. And in between, right, you can begin to use this the minute you finish the very first lesson. So this is a kind of innovative learning approach that will allow you to learn more in less time in a much more engaging learning system. Here's a graphic of everything that's in there. You can see all the different concepts covered in each module. And again, I can only compare it to like mini TED Talks, like 3 to 4 minute video and then a rapid application exercise. Job aids, obviously you can see some examples of all the stuff that's in there. So it's visual, it's auditory, it's video, multimodal learning, and then there's quizzes to check yourself and know that you've gotten the concepts and can move on. Then obviously the collaboration guide helps you collaborate between your team to really get what I call the big impact from a culture standpoint. So here's actually a video that shows exactly what it looks like, and you get a feel for what this really is. It's mobile friendly.
There is a method for teaching you how to be anticipatory in your work, regardless of whether you're a leader, a manager, a team member, regardless of the size of the organization, even if you're just a one-guy company. We've got the big missing competency today that we're going to be teaching. I mean, let's face it, we're all good at reacting, we're good at responding, we're good at crisis management, we've learned how to be lean, we've learned how to be agile, we've learned how to execute on strategy, and none of that helped Hewlett-Packard, Sony, Dell, Microsoft, HP, Blockbuster, BlackBerry, and countless others. So what are they missing? And that is the ability to anticipate. This is an online learning system. It's different than regular training. We're making it exciting, engaging, something that doesn't take a lot of time but has high impact. So we've broken down how to be anticipatory into learning modules of single concepts. One is very short single concept videos, and I'm talking very short, 3 to 4 minutes. Secondly, then, we have a rapid application tool. And the rapid application activity is to help you apply the concept to your work right now. Because if you don't apply it to what you do, frankly, you aren't going to learn it well and you're probably not going to use it. And then there's a way to do a pre and post assessment. So it's not just a grade, but rather, how many problems did you solve? In other words, you can actually see results in going through and taking the learning system, which is part of the self-motivation aspect to it. Best of all, we're taking the least amount of time on your part with the biggest amount of impact for you and your profession as well as your business. I'm excited about helping us see that new future. The partnership with the Business Learning Institute and Burris Research is to make sure that we're extremely relevant to the learner so that we understand how that learning takes place. We have great content, but we wanted the context to the content to be extremely relevant in every single lesson that we're teaching. I believe the good old days of this profession are ahead of us, and it's going to take us to make it that way. So together, we can do that.
We think there's some powerful advantages to this mode of learning. In fact, we were one of the first state CPA societies is about continuing professional education to pass the standard of nano learning because it is such a powerful learning method. And this is some stats on e-learning, which this program is part of. In fact, our Big Data University portal with IBM is also e-learning like this. But for every $1 invested in e-learning, you actually get a $30 increase in productivity. 30 to 1 is not too bad. 18% increase in employee engagement. The learning time is reduced from 25 to 60% from traditional learning methods. Increases retention of the learning. These concepts stick, and over that 3 to 4 month period, you'll find that everyone's got the concepts and will be applying them for years to come. It keeps your people productive, and it lets them self-pace around their busy schedules, this whole idea of being overwhelmed, so they can spread it out and do it whenever they feel ready to do it. Lunchtime, in the morning, in the evening, home. It's mobile friendly. It'll move from device to device. The learning goes with you. So I think it's worth thinking about this as a new way to get yourself these anticipatory skills and all the related skills that go with them. So this whole exercise is to help give you a little edge on being future ready, and I hope this has been useful. The notion here is, can you actually get to the point where you can be aware, predictive, and adaptive of these emerging trends and changes in technologies so that you can get ahead and stay ahead. So I hope this has been useful in elevating your thinking about how you can be future ready. Thank you.